pjnet.tv. It is a Thursday evening, 9:01 on the East Coast, and we are ready to roll. Let's go down the checklist. The bumper is running. We are recording. We are streaming on 9 platforms. Kenn Edwards is standing by. Chat room is waiting. Counting down to Studio 8 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, good evening and welcome to pjnet.tv. For me, it's kind of the end of the week. Obviously, it is not, but tomorrow night I get the night off. Thank you very much, Steve Hazards. Hazards 4 in our chat room is at the controls tomorrow night, and I hope that you all will be here and enjoy yourselves as I enjoy it too. But tonight is the first Thursday of the month. Now that's a special time in PJNet, because that is the appointed time that we have one of the foremost financial experts on the planet, Kenn Edwards, joins us, where if you look behind him, you'll notice that there is light streaming in through the window because it's still daylight there. Kenn, your smile is as radiant as the light coming through the window, but you're doing a pretty good job of blocking the window. But you have a message for those of us who make money or don't make enough money or should have more money. Help us out, bud. I need some good financial advice. How do you invest $20?
Well, Coach, I've got a good answer for you tonight. It's great to be back with you again and to have the opportunity to be able to share a little bit about what God's doing. We're going to talk about biblical truth tonight for anyone, regardless of their financial situation. You know, everybody's in a different financial picture. Some are struggling more, some have excess, but there are many biblical truths that apply to each one of us. And so regardless of our financial situation, if we will apply these principles, we will find financial freedom over time. But before we get into that, I want to give you a little update on COVID-19 and the stock market, just so everybody's up to date.
Oh, please, yeah.
Yeah, if you have had your 401k or IRA or other investments and you kept them invested and didn't pull them out, and you had them in a well-diversified portfolio, they are about 2/3 of the way back, about 65% recovered from the bottom of the market. And that is where we talked about a few months ago that hopefully by the end of the year, we will see that a lot of the investment dollars have come back. So many things are up in the air with the spike in the COVID-19 in different places. So the stock market's been kind of up and down, back and forth the last few weeks. But if the economy continues to improve, we should see a continued growth and rebound of the stock market. Today there were 11 million new jobs that were created, that was announced, and unemployment now is at 11%. Excuse me, I take that back. It was 5 million new jobs, and unemployment now stands at about 11%. So the economy is starting to come back if we can just keep it rolling, with this COVID-19 business in our backyard.
How would that compare with some of your predictions or expectations that you had a month or two ago?
Well, no predictions. Expectations, maybe. Mm-hmm. Typically, I would have expected the stock market to rebound fairly quickly because it dropped so quick. Mm-hmm. Other than the COVID-19 and everybody going home and staying home and not spending money, basically there was no problems in the economy prior to that. Unemployment was at an all-time low for all different groups of people. The economy was just trucking along in a real grand fashion. And so if we get past some of this COVID-19 and things settle down, even though it's going to continue on for a while, if we can get it to where things are settling down and life gets somewhat back to normal, then the economy should start, picking back up and getting closer to where it was pre-COVID-19. I don't think we'll see that really until after either there's a vaccination and or so many people have gotten it that the herd vaccination, is taking care of many of the threats, and then we'll see life hopefully get back to normal unless there's another strain that kicks up.
It may not be on your list of things, but I am curious. What economic impact or financial market impact did it have when everybody got this check? Was
Well,
that
I
a
think
good thing, bad thing?
I think it was a good thing because most of the people either spent it, the ones that were unemployed needed it to help pay their rent or their house payment or car payment. So they either spent it and put it into the economy, or many paid off debt with it. And that would free them up or help them out.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people that were blessed and still were working or still had income, they actually used that stimulus money to give to the Lord's work, which was pretty great blessing to see that in many ways.
I didn't mean to derail you. I was just curious.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So anyways, we're going to talk tonight about 5 key principles of financial success that will help anyone regardless of their current financial situation. A lot of these are just plain common sense. But if we'll learn to apply these in our life and understand the biblical principle behind them, we will be able to walk over time in financial success. Now, there's always stumbling blocks that come along. Unfortunately, there's divorce or hospitalization or unexpected job loss or things that might. But if you apply these financial principles, it should help even during some of those most difficult times that we might face, like with a job loss. So let's get started. The first one is really simple, basic common sense. Spend less than you earn. Now, that's really smart. And it really is. I mean, if you look at society today, and I used to work in a bank, so I know if you go to a bank, they want you to borrow money and have everything today. But what happens is that makes it harder down the road. So Proverbs 13:11 says, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. There's no simple answer for saving money except, a dollar at a time. Mm-hmm. And if we will spend less than what we earn and save and give, God will bless it. A good rule of thumb that we always tell people is if you will give 10% to the Lord's work and then put 10% in your savings, and if you do that all of your life, little by little, it will increase, just as Proverbs says, down through the years. Yes, there could be hiccups, but if you apply this principle all of your life, you will see financial success over time. The second one is avoid the use of debt. You and I have talked about this before. Proverbs 22:7 says the borrower is slave to the lender. And when we borrow money, yes, we may get a new car today, or we may, have a vacation in Hawaii and put it on the credit card, but we owe that money. And if we can't pay that money back, we become a slave real quick to the credit card company or to the bank. Now, home debt, if you buy a home in a good market and it appreciates in value, it can be a good asset. But most consumer debt will do nothing but hurt you and rob you in the long run. In fact, it hinders you in 3 different ways. One, it hinders you because emotionally, because you have to deal with paying that back. Will I be able to take and pay that debt back? And so emotionally, it bothers you, especially when those paydays or those paychecks come, those credit card bills come due. Secondly, it hurts you spiritually. And this is a real challenge in our world today. We have so much debt and so much credit card debt particularly that our budgets are full and there's no surplus at all. And so many times people feel like they can't afford to give because they don't have the extra income. And what that does, it actually hurts them. If they put God first, God's hand of protection will be around them, and they'll be able to walk in his protection, and some of those expenses that might creep up otherwise, won't happen because of the hand of God protecting you. And then, of course, the third way that debt hinders you is just practical. It's like taking a pay cut. If you have a bill that's due and it's $100 a month, that's like $100 less income that you have every month or every week.
Well, and typically those are repaid with after-tax dollars. To repay a $100 debt, you have to earn $125, $130.
That's exactly right. And then if you add interest on top of that, it's really compounded. So you're really probably losing 20% or 20% more than what the payment is just in those extra costs. So debt really does hinder us, and so avoiding debt as much as possible. Now, Coach, you're probably getting close enough. You're not as old as I am, but you may have heard your parents or grandparents talk about the Great Depression days.
Yes, my father always said he had plenty to eat, because whenever he asked for seconds, his father said, "You've had plenty."
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, I'll remember that one. So, but my dad, he grew up in the Dakotas during the Great Depression. And of course, they lived in a one-room small farmhouse. They had a potbelly stove, no electricity, no running water. Closest church was 10 miles away by horse buggy. And they were poorer than poor. They couldn't afford to buy coal for heat. They had corn to sell, but they couldn't sell the corn because nobody had money. And so they would actually burn the corn for heat. And so what happens in those days, so many of our senior adults that are either, gone on to be with the Lord already or, are way up in years, they will remember the hardships of the Great Depression. And one of the first things that they'll tell you is, get out of debt. And unfortunately, so many Americans today, we think debt is a natural part of our life, and we can't wait to buy something new, even if that makes an extra payment. And if you have plenty of finances and can afford it, it's one thing. But when the market turns down or the job goes south, it's almost impossible to be able to, handle that debt. So that takes us to our third one, and that's build liquidity. In other words, save. If you lose your job and you have a good, financial reserve that is in place, and you could continue to live your same lifestyle for 6 months, it really doesn't affect you if you lose that job for a month or 6 weeks or 2 months. Yes, if you lose it for a year, now that you got troubles. But by saving and having liquidity or building margin into your life, it helps you to be able to deal with those financial downturns and the bumps in the road that everybody has. Two things I'll say. A portion of Scripture, Proverbs 6:6, tells us, "The ant prepares in the summer and gathers food in the harvest." Another way I like to think about it is the squirrel. The squirrels go out and they grab acorns all summer long, as fall approaches, and they'll tuck them away. You'll see them with their big jaws, the acorns poking out their cheeks. Why? Because they're saving those up so they have food for the winter. And so when we build liquidity and save money in our life, it allows us to be able to take care of our family during those downtimes. So number 4, set long-term goals. You'll never get any place unless you have a plan that you're working. You're trying to get those, have those goals. You may not reach those goals each week, each month, or each year, but if you have a plan and you know where you're going, you'll be able to spend that effort in meeting those goals so that you'll have those savings and retirement and the debt paid off, so that you will be, over time, financially secure regardless of what circumstances arise. And having good savings and having long-term goals, what it does is it's liberating.
Mm-hmm.
It brings us freedom. Where debt is just the opposite, it brings us, into bondage. And then the last one is really stewardship. Live like God owns it all. A very familiar verse of scripture is Psalms 24:1. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, the world and all who dwell in it. It's God. We know the cattle on 1,000 ranch, hills are God. Everything we have is really a gift or a blessing from God. And so when we learn to live in that manner, it helps us to manage the things God's put into our hands in a way that brings him glory. And so those are the 5 key things that if we will apply in our life, they're principles of financial success, we will, over time, little by little, we'll be able to pay off debt and begin to save, and we'll see financial success to some degree in our life.
Ken, it's awesome the way you not only speak with wisdom, which is actually, as you said earlier, common sense, which is a little uncommon, unfortunately, but providing scriptural perspective. These truths are not new; these are not novel ideas. They were recorded some 2,000 years ago by a very wise, God. Could I share a word of personal testimony? A story just happened this week. Credit cards. For the longest time, I could only have a debit card, but I was finally able to get this credit card. And of course, the terms were lousy. The credit limit was low, the interest rate was high, and there was an annual fee. But it helped me get a credit score. And then I parlayed that into, or leveraged it, I should say, into a card without an annual fee, with a lower, blah, blah, blah. Well, I noticed something that I thought was particularly sinister, in my opinion. These people, the annual fee is $100. So normally, once a year, your card, your statement would have a $100 charge on it for the annual fee. Well, I noticed that I don't use the card. It's been paid off. I made a little purchase with it again just to establish some credit. But I get a bill for $8.25, and I was certain that I had not made any purchases, so I was very suspect. I looked at it, and what they are now doing is charging the annual fee monthly. Now, I saw the game immediately. Is they know that if by charging it monthly, they can send out thousands of bills each month, and some of them will be late. And so I called them, and of course navigating through it is kind of tough, but I called them and said I would like to cancel my account with you. And of course they sent me to the recovery team,
Yeah.
Immediately they began offering a refund of the previous 3 months of fees and waiving it for the next 3 while they reevaluated my account.
That's a good way.
Well, that's where I'm headed.
Yeah.
I declined their offer. I said, I tell you what, cancel the account, and if you would like to send me a new offer I said, if you want to eliminate the annual fee right now, I will not cancel the account. But short of that, we're just kicking. You just want me to kick the can down the road, and you're hoping that I'll forget. I said, cancel the account. You are welcome to send me a new offer, but no. But it did lead me to something I've known in many industries. If you have more than one credit card, take the one that is the least desirable and call them up and say, I'd like to cancel it. Of course, that presumes it's paid off, but pay it off. And I was seeing they were really getting They were scrambling. They were trying to earn my business, but I held the line, Ken. I just got my acknowledgement that it's canceled. I kept the card because in case they didn't cancel it, I could call back and know my account number. So I think now that I'll test it by trying to buy something like gas, make sure it gets declined. Then I'll leave the card on
You to pay off debt quicker. And
well,
so,
yeah, and it may not be the